nothing to lose.
Leads you to where you are today.
I believe in storytelling.
Gonna make you a star.
I'm still trying to figure that out.
Biography.
She was an old-fashioned singer in a rock and roll world.
Night breezes seem to whisper, I love you.
I always thought of Cass as a sort of contemporary Sophie Tucker.
Hearing her sing was exactly like sliding into a warm bath.
Cass had more than a great voice. She had a persona, she had a vibe, and she projected it, and you could tell that she was having fun singing.
I'm alone and blue as can be. Dream a little dream of me.
Ladies and gentlemen, Cass Elliot.
I think people got from her that it's okay, whatever you are. If you have talent, if you have confidence, if you have something to show people, people will come and sit down and watch. What are you selling? Me. What a package. Yeah, I'm one of a kind, honey. And listen to this.
Well, these women always raving about their monkey men.
For a woman to be that heavy and to be in rock and roll at a time when it was sort of the swinging 60s and mini skirts and all that whole kind of English mod look, and she was in a band with a very beautiful, thin woman. So in a way, I think she was very brave to really sort of be in that world and just be herself.
Wild women don't worry. Wild women don't get the blues. Come on in, baby.
When we listen to the soundtrack of the Flower Power generation, Cass Elliott's voice is heard strong and clear. Elliott started out as a fixture in the early 60s folk scene, before eventually finding a place in one of pop music's most successful bands. As an integral part of the Mamas and Papas, Cass's singing anchored the tightest harmonies in rock and roll.
Cass was the one with the pipes. She was the one that really did the singing. I mean, Cass and Denny were just, amazing voices. And then with John's arranging abilities and writing abilities, and then the way Michelle looked, it was just a great combination, a symbiotic grouping of people.
Everybody knows that she was fat. And in a way, because she was fat, she disarmed everybody. And people naturally just gravitated toward her. She was like a big planet, a planet of charm.
Here is this great big woman, and she is the one that out of all of them is drawing the most fans.
She would have the audience swooning. I remember one guy in the back said, "Cass, I love you." "Dynamite, where you staying?"
She was getting letters from guys on the front in Vietnam she was their pinup girl. And for real, they weren't writing sarcastic letters. There was something about her.
Those who knew her all agree. Cass had a magical presence, which could often shape someone's destiny with a simple thought or casual introduction.
She set many people on the paths of their life's work and things. She was working on a record and casually said one day, "You should make this album cover, Gary. You could do that." She gave me a life. I've had a career because of her. A lot of people would say the same thing.
She's responsible certainly for the Love and Spoonful because she introduced Ollie and I. She's fairly responsible for Crosby, Stills, Nash.
Well, my life would have certainly not been the same had I not met Cass Elliot. It would have been completely different. I would never have met David and therefore never have met Stephen or Neil.
She was the unsung hero who was quite willing to stand back and pull the strings and let everybody think somebody else had done it. It was like the Wizard of Oz, she's back there behind the curtain. Ignore that woman behind the curtain. She's back there with it, pulling the strings.
I'm not sure what the world really knows photos of Cass or what they will really remember. And I sometimes get worried that it's going to be all the sensational tabloid stuff, 99.9% of which isn't true.
Indeed, speculation about Cass's tragic death overshadowed the facts.
I know how she died. I don't know if you do. I don't know if anybody else does, but I do.
I can't tell you what it does to me every time someone says, "Oh, your mom was Molly Cass. Didn't she die of choking on a ham sandwich?" Shh, no rumors.
Laying the myth aside, this much is true. At a time when the world was happy to just hang out and make music, Cass Elliot was the grande dame of rock and roll. Who could have guessed that her star would burn so bright and burn out just as quick?
To demonstrate the versatility of new Pledge multi-surface, we've placed Haley in this glass box and asked her
Excuse me, I gotta get my kids soon. I don't have time to clean all this.
No worries. New Pledge multi-surface is fast and effective.
Nice.
Quickly cleaning all these surfaces.
Fast. Wow, I'm done. Oh, sorry.
Clean more. Faster. That's the beauty of new Pledge multi-surface. SC Johnson, a family company.
What's our favorite part of Honey Bunches of Oats?
The sparkly flakes.
The Honey Baked Bunches!
The magic's in the mix. My favorite part? Eating it.
Honey Bunches of Oats. Taste the joy we put in every spoonful.
At eHarmony, we think there's a better way for singles to find lasting relationships. While other sites make you scan through thousands of pictures to find a match, eHarmony pre-screens each member for you to determine your matches based on 29 dimensions of deep compatibility in areas like character, values, and intellect. Feel the difference yourself of being matched on deep compatibility. Get started today and review all your matches for free at eHarmony.com.
Lashes with up to 12 times more impact.
L'Oreal makes it possible with new Extra Volume Collagen Mascara. Our unique formula with Hydrocollagen creates breathtaking volume. Plus, L'Oreal's patented brush is 50% bigger, so it builds that incredible volume fast.
The result? 12 times more impact without any clumps.
Extra volume, extra impact, near or far.
All eyes on you, because you're worth it.
New Extra Volume Collagen Mascara from L'Oreal.
What's in a Triscuit? Simple ingredients like soft white winter wheat gathered together for 22 grams of whole grain goodness. It's what makes Triscuit worth every bite. Triscuit, weave some wonder.
Today's session, bleach accident prevention. 97% of clothing labels have this. Even on whites. Listen to your clothes. Who still uses it?
I do.
New Spray and Wash Bright and White is your safe bleach alternative. It does the job.
Stop! Don't do that!
Without the accidents. It's free of chlorine bleach, so you can pour it right on your clothes, even on colors. Just add with your detergent. It keeps your whites looking whiter, your colors bright, while the Resolve Power gets rid of stains. Listen to your clothes. Trust Spray and Wash Bright and White.
Guys, remember, we're a solar system. Mars is down, and it's only 10 a.m. Who hasn't had their Jimmy Dean breakfast this morning? Now let's orbit.
I feel awesome.
You're all awesome.
Jimmy Dean breakfast sandwiches. Fight the morning fade. Jimmy Dean. Shine on.
Are you one of the millions of people struggling to learn a new language? Well, thanks to our breakthrough software called Rosetta Stone, learning a new language is now incredibly easy and a whole lot faster.
I've probably learned more in the first 2 weeks than I have in months of taking formal classes.
Rosetta Stone is so fast and effective, it's used by the U.S. State Department, NASA, the U.S. Army, and Fortune 500 companies, and is the world's leading language learning software.
It's almost like having your own person there teaching you, your own private tutor who is just very relaxed in your home with you, sitting there teaching you the language.
Rosetta Stone is the fastest way to learn a new language. And to prove it, we'll send you our amazing demo CD, absolutely free when you call.
This really is a great program.
I believe that you can learn any language with this program.
So call now or visit our website and see for yourself why Rosetta Stone is the fastest way to learn a new language, guaranteed.
The
The first time I met William Banks, he punched me in the face.
He kicked the bar stool out from underneath me.
He pulled the needle out of my arm.
He was comforting my daughter after she found me unconscious.
He pulled me out of Skid Row.
He checked me into rehab.
Checked me into rehab.
He checked me into rehab.
Thanks, William.
Thanks, William. Thanks, William.
I'm listening.
And now, with a little help from my family and friends, I would like to present for the first time anywhere, the Cass Elliot story.
Born Ellen Naomi Cohen on September 19, 1941, Cass Elliot was the eldest of 3 children. Living in and around Washington, D.C., she showed an early fondness for the spotlight.
Cass was a precocious child, to say the least, and she grew up in a house of music.
My father would play opera records a lot. My mother loved Frank Sinatra.
I really never had a rock background. I mean, I liked classical music, I liked jazz.
She entered into a talent show when she was very young at the Baltimore Hippodrome as a little girl and sang Don't Fence Me In. And that was probably her show business debut.
Ellen Naomi was being groomed for medical school, but theater was her passion. At 19, she changed her name and the direction of her life.
I talked it over with my parents. I said, listen, I'd like to be in show business. And they laughed, that funny joke. And they said, nobody's going to pay you for that, and don't be silly, and go to college like you're supposed to. And I said, well, look, I'll make a deal with you. You let me have 5 years, and I'll go to New York and try and make something of myself. And if I don't make it in 5 years, I'll come back. When she initially went to New York, she wanted to break into legitimate theater.
That didn't happen because Barbara Streisand started going to the same auditions.
There weren't a lot of parts for 300-pound ingenues. That's what she said about it.
After landing a few gigs here and there, Cass returned to D.C. in 1962, exchanging show tunes for folk tunes.
About that time, she ran into Tim Rose, who she described as a smooth-talking banjo player. This was in the heyday of the folk craze in the United States, and they decided to form a folk group.
Cass and Tim traveled the country honing their sound. One night, on a small stage in Omaha, they found the missing link.
She sat down in front of me, and she made faces. She tried to make me laugh. She just, it was something when I first saw her, I couldn't figure out what in the world, this girl was trying to do.
Cass was immediately smitten with Jim's looks, his sound, and Tim similarly appreciated Jim for who he was.
We would get together after the club closed, started harmonizing, and we all got goosebumps. We were all excited just about the way the sound was.
They used to rehearse at our house from time to time, and it was a great experience to be around those guys. They had great energy, and they just had a great vibe about them.
And so, Tim Rose, Cass Elliot, and James Hendricks became the Big Three. Making its way to Greenwich Village in June of '63, the group found a folk scene that was thriving.
One of the great things about the village in those early days was the proximity of all these clubs. And the artists seemed to move back and forth very freely from club to club, place to place, and were very supportive of one another.
When I first got to the village, we were playing for baskets in the coffee houses up and down Bleecker Street and through the village. And one night I'm walking along Bleecker Street and I hear this sound coming from somewhere, and I pinned it down. It was the Bitter Inn. And I heard Cass singing with 2 other voices, but you could hear her above everything. They were singing, "You Know My Rider." Right? What about me? What is the hell is that? I gotta go see him. He had these big black drapes down in front of the Bitter End, but you could still hear her. And I'm looking out, and there she was with the black, it was chiffon or satin or something, just letting it go. I'll never forget that image of seeing her with Jim and Tim on either side, just wailing. When they hit that last chord, goes from minor to major. You know. A couple of nights later, I'm up on the stage singing a song in some little coffee house. And I look out, and she's standing in the doorway, looking out. The same thing I was doing to her, she was pinning me.
But just as the Big Three was reaching the peak of its professional collaboration, Jim received an ill-timed letter from his local draft board.
It was right when we were getting all those television shows. I mean, everything was just going great for us. I found out either teaching school or being married would keep me exempt. So when I told Cass, she said, well, let's go get married. And so we did.
It was very secretive. The only people that knew about it were Cass and Jim and their manager, Roy Silver. But after they married, they became increasingly close, and they became far more tight than Tim. And it wasn't until into 1964 that Tim discovered about the marriage.
The Big Three disbanded, and so Cass and Jim, now platonically married, joined forces with Denny Doherty and Zal Yanofsky to form a new group, the Mugwumps.
The Mugwumps were real folk rock, I'd say. That is, not really with a foot in either camp firmly.
It was bigger Big Three. It was, four boy. Now Zal was singing, and John Sebastian was not going to let us leave town without him. So he and Zal were having far too much fun.
They came on stage, and you couldn't stop looking at them. I mean, they were so amazing, especially Zal. This big bushy hair, this like big Beatles haircut, but it was like a Beatles haircut done by Fellini.
And off we go to Washington, D.C., where one of the managers had a club, the Shadows. We became the house band. This is all her management. This is all Cass's apparatus getting us together.
They were complete cut-ups on stage. They would take turns lying down on the stage. At one point, I remember Cass lying down and Zal over there with his foot on her stomach, playing a solo.
Yet in spite of the group's charisma, the life of the Mugwumps was short and sweet.
Warner Brothers Records was interested in us, but they didn't want Cass to be part of that group because the Beatles had just hit the market and they wanted young boys with the same kind of haircuts and the whole thing. When the band heard that, we just said, it's not going to be the same without her. We'd rather just completely disband the group then.
But Cass and Denny would soon work together again, joining forces with John and Michelle Phillips. Folk was on the way out, and rock and roll was about to swallow them whole.
Starting Tuesday, get your backstage pass for the Biopalooza. It's the three-part event that brings you 3 biographies a night, featuring all new biographies, Pink Floyd, Metallica, and Aerosmith. Get all the stories from the road when the 3-night event starts Tuesday at 8. Only on Bio, True Story.
Visit Overstock.com for name brand products at up to 70% off every day. You'll find gifts for every dad, from tools to bathroom and lighting fixtures, home improvement needs, kitchen appliances. This Father's Day, let Overstock.com show you what you're looking for. And your entire order ships for just $2.95. Overstock.com, at home with the O.
So, Little Bite, it's your first big day. Now, make sure she raises her hand and pays attention to what the teacher says. And if she needs help staying focused, give her a little nudge with your 8 layers. Other than that, you'll do fine. You are made of whole grain fiber, after all. Yes, Little Bite?
Just practicing.
Help keep your little one full and focused with new Frosted Mini Wheats Little Bite cereal. An excellent source of fiber packed in a smaller size.
Available in Honey Nut and chocolate.
Keeps them full, keeps them focused.
FreeCreditReport.com. Tell your friends, tell your dad, tell your mom. Never mind, they've been singing our songs since we first showed up with our pirate hats on. If you're not into fake sword fights, pointy slippers and green wool tights, take a tip from a knight who knows. FreeCreditReport.com.
Offer applies with enrollment and Triple Advantage.
Even these days, there are some investments that always give great returns. Which is why a Duncan Hines cupcake is never just a cupcake. Duncan Hines, so moist, so delicious, and so much more.
If you've got one of these, you probably use these to keep them healthy. But why?
when you can get these? They're exactly the same brand name medications, but these cost a lot less because they're from 1-800-PET-MEDS. With 1-800-PET-MEDS, you save a trip to the vet too, because they're delivered free, right to your door, with a 100% satisfaction guarantee. Millions of pet owners trust 1-800-PET-MEDS for fast service, free shipping, and big savings. Call now or order online from 1-800-PET-MEDS, America's largest pet pharmacy.
Dreaming about owning your own spa? Well, stop dreaming. It's Sundance Spa's best offer ever. Payments as low as $94 a month, up to $3,000 off, and free spa maintenance for a year. Sundance Spas is celebrating its 30th anniversary with incredible savings. Get the Sundance Spa you've always dreamed of, with payments as low as $94 a month with no money down, up to $3,000 off, and free spa maintenance. Hurry, offer ends Sunday, May 31st. Call 888-9-SUNDANCE to find a dealer near you.
The years kids' bones need calcium and vitamin D the most are the years they get the least. But there's a new way to help close the gap. Introducing Sunny D Smoothies. As much calcium and vitamin D as milk. And a taste so creamy, smooth, and bold, they'll love getting nutrients to help bones grow. New Sunny D Smoothies. The calcium and vitamin D goodness of milk with a sunny twist.
There's a place called Hidden Valley where kids not only eat their vegetables, they can't get enough. Hidden Valley Ranch makes vegetables delectable. Now rediscover the delectable taste that could only come from Hidden Valley, the original ranch.
Faded dark clothes are a major style faux pas.
Even after 20 washes, Woolite for All Darks won't cause fading.
Washed out, not pretty. So keep your clothes looking like new.
Don't take a chance. Trust Woolite.
What's in a Triscuit? Simple ingredients like soft white winter wheat gathered together for 22 grams of whole grain goodness. It's what makes Triscuit worth every bite. Triscuit, weave some wonder.
After the demise of the Mugwumps in 1964, Cass Elliot worked the folk circuit as a solo act. Meanwhile, Denny Doherty hooked up with John Phillips and John's wife Michelle, who were in a group called the New Journeymen. Denny, John, and Michelle then played a few dates as a folk trio. All the while, Doherty was anxious to introduce his old pal Elliot to his new bandmates. A meeting was arranged one fateful New York evening, early in 1965.
I wanted John to hear the Beatles, because he wouldn't. Anyway, nothing to do with rock and roll. That bass, lower forces, dark, subterranean stuff. So I brought Meet the Beatles over, and I told Cass to come over later, and we took some acid.
Just as the doorbell rang, I said, I don't know about you guys, but this drug does nothing for me.
Cass comes to the door.
Just as I opened it, ding, 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 ding. It just all came over me at once. And there was this woman standing in front of me.
She's got a pink Angora sweater that she made.
Her hair was in a flip, and she had lashes out to here.
With a little white mini skirt, pleated mini skirt to the knees.
White go-go boots.
Stunning.
And I thought, wait a minute, this drug is very powerful.
John had been writing and arranging countless songs, but he was still reluctant to let Cass in the group. His claim was that her vocal range did not suit his material, but his reservations may have gone deeper still.
His visual was all visual.
She always had the range.
John's idea was Michelle. That's woman.
John was used to telling people what to do, and Cass didn't like it.
Besides, Dennis, her eyes are too close together. Huh? Say what? Her eyes are too close together. She smells.
It's just one of those stories that took on a life of its own.
But what about her voice? What about the singing part? Can we get into that anytime soon?
The problem with Cass was that she and John just would meet head on.
She knew what she could do here. Or she knew what she could do with that. You know, this is what I want. I'm gonna this. I'm gonna put myself right in there. And he's going, no, you'll stay out. And I'm going, I've been there. It's gonna be great. Yeah, he will be overtaken. And he was.
Disgruntled by John's refusal to let her in the group, Cass headed for Los Angeles in search of old friends.
Cass was staying with Jim Hendrix in his apartment, and she got a call from Denny with John and Michelle, and they were coming that direction and needed a place to stay.
But Danny said, hey, we just got to have Cass. If we're going to do this thing, we just got to have her.
Well, we were so excited about the sound and about singing. We all had ears, and we all knew that it was this kind of sound that nobody else was doing. So we would get up first thing in the morning, it'd wake everybody else up, and we would all get up and sing all day long. And then we'd finally sing until the neighbors would start screaming and yelling, and we'd fall asleep and then start the next day.
It couldn't have been days that we were singing together that Cass said, on the phone and called McGuire. Hi, Barry. Do you know anybody that we can sing for?
And Barry said, look, I have a great producer, Lou Adler. Why don't you guys go sing for him?
These four kind of scruffy-looking people came into the studio, and Lou turned to me and said, what do you think? And I said, if you don't take them, I will. Lou, of course, signed them, but they were amazing. They just made this wonderful, amazing sound.
Early 1966, in Boston, Massachusetts, it broke. And it broke huge. And all of a sudden, we had a huge hit. Once that happened, we released Monday Monday right on the heels of it. And that just bounded up to number one. We had not been on stage together, but we had a number one album. I expected us to work several different venues to get to the top, but our first show was at the Hollywood Bowl.
What happened with the first album was we were all very excited about the music, but nobody could predict that it was going to be as big a hit as it was. And I think part of the reason for the title, If You Can Believe Your Eyes and Your Ears, was that they weren't groomed or slicked back in any kind of way. And they didn't look like they'd been chosen particularly for their physical appearance. They just were four people that got together to sing. And of course, when you heard them sing, you couldn't believe your ears. After they had been seen by the public, people began to say, oh, Michelle is thin and beautiful, and Cass is heavy, but she's got this great voice.
There's a trade ad that exists of them that where they're sort of all caricatured. And Michelle's portrayed as a squiggle. Cass is a drum with feet on it. In their heyday, John would refer to Cass as, here's our magic mushroom.
Our psychedelic mushroom. Mama Cass.
Michelle was usually referred to as the Mexican gypsy princess.
We'd like to introduce you to our Mexican gypsy, Michelle, Mama Michelle.
They were clearly presented to their audiences as very different people, but it was always Cass that folks flocked to and who had as much fan or star appeal as anybody.
This is a great dream come true. This is really great. We get to close it out because we're the tallest. Well, John's the tallest. And I'm the heaviest, except me and Pigpen keep getting mistaken for one another.
But while the mamas and papas were harmonious on stage, things would often sour in the recording studio.
She would not give in to John. There were times when she'd do a perfect take, and he'd be in the booth helping Lou, and she'd do a great take. And John would go, let's do another one, honey. Cass said, what was wrong with that one, John? Oh, no, let's do another one. Just to make her do it again.
Coming back to the earphones. Could you turn the earphones off, please?
And she'd do it again.
3.
Can you do another one, babe? Sure.
1, 2, 3.
She'd sing to the point where she would just expend all air and then fall over.
If there was something that she didn't want to sing, she would just say, I don't want to sing it. And John would say, well, you have to sing it. And then Lou would take her aside and say, just go sing it. You know, she didn't want to sing Words of Love, which is one of the best solo performances that she ever did.
From late 1965 through 1968, the Mamas and the Papas produced some of the greatest music of its generation. But what was built so quick would come crashing down faster still, with Cass left to take the spotlight alone. She would never look back.
Al Capone himself once estimated that 50% of the Chicago police force worked for him.
There was no way to get Capone on any of the substantive charges. You couldn't get a jury. They knew what would happen to him if they voted a conviction against a gangster.
One day, he went to a courthouse, a jail, and a police station asking if there was any policeman there, any cop, any detective, any judge who wanted to arrest him. Nobody did. Nobody dared.
Mom? Mom? When are you gonna tell me what you think?
You want to join the military?
I want to be a part of something bigger than myself. I
want to make a difference, and you feel like you need to do it.
You were listening.
This isn't easy, but I'm trying.
Mom was diagnosed with moderate Alzheimer's. It was tough news to hear. Everything changed. I didn't know what to do. Right about then, our doctor mentioned the Exelon patch. He said it releases medicine continuously for 24 hours. He said it could help with her cognition, which includes things like memory, reasoning, communicating, and understanding.
The most common side effects of Exelon patch are nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. The likelihood and severity of these side effects may increase as the dose increases. Patients may experience loss of appetite or weight. Patients who weigh less than 110 pounds may experience more side effects. People at risk for stomach ulcers or who take certain other medicine should talk to their doctor because serious stomach problems such as bleeding may worsen.
Mom's diagnosis was hard to hear, but there's something I can do.
Visit ExelonPatch.com for free caregiving resources.
Ooh, yuck.
Think you can handle this?
Yep.
Unlike regular trash bags, only Glad ForceFlex bags have stretchable strength technology that helps prevent rips, tears, and messy cleanups. For stretchable strength, get Glad ForceFlex.
Bring the power of nature inside. Greenworks is made with natural plant-based ingredients that clean without harsh chemical fumes and residue. And since they're made by Clorox, they clean with the power you expect. From Clorox comes Greenworks, naturally. And try Greenworks wipes. They're 99% natural and clean tough messes.
Is my house ever really done? I mean, we live here. I found this Jaclyn Smith bedding that I love. And so does everybody else. And my Cannon towels were a perfect match for my color scheme and their bath time. The nice thing about Kmart, when I find something like my Martha Stewart Everyday Patio set, I can afford it. And that's beautiful. Top names, uncommon style, and surprising details at a Kmart price.
They're smart, and there's Kmart Smart.
Hot
fudge brownie meets cool, creamy ice cream. New Edward Singles a la modes. Individually packaged, ready from your microwave in less than a minute. Edward Singles. Share one with someone you love. Or not.
Hello, my name is Anna. I like to be in the valley, not mountain. So, for you to pick me to come to California to be happy cow, I will sing. Oopsies.
Great milk comes from happy cows. Happy cows come from California. Look for dairy brands with the real California seals.
Vote Anna!
As one of the mamas and the papas, Cass Elliot got plenty of attention on stage. But alone at home, something was missing in her life.
Somebody asked me today when I was going to have the baby. That's funny.
She was not happy with being terrifically overweight, and she was lonely. She wanted very much to be loved. She had the gift of being able to love and wanted somebody that she could make happy and wanted even more for somebody to come and love her.
She always had a crush on someone, and it always feels a little uncomfortable because she was so, never want to hurt those kind of feelings.
Cass was 26 and tired of rejection, so she devised a plan that would provide her with a permanent solution to her loneliness.
She said, "Judy, I'm going to have a baby." And I said, "Are you pregnant?" She said, "No, but I'm going to get pregnant. I know I can get pregnant." And then I thought, who will the father be?
She just saw this person sit there like, you, now. Come here, big boy. And that was, and the baby came along with that.
She said, "Oh, by the way, I'm pregnant." And John says, "Fine, when's the abortion?" He says, "No, I'm going to have the baby." John was mortified. He just didn't know how we were going to work around this.
Not that she didn't want to answer for anything, it just was nobody's business. It's my business. And if you're not going to help me with it, then get the hell out of the way.
She toured, and she recorded, and she rehearsed. She did everything that she would have done had she not been pregnant.
The only thing she didn't do was reveal the identity of the child's father.
First it was kind of provocative, and then it became this giant mystery, and everybody would wonder, and she wouldn't say a word about it.
I took her to the hospital the morning Owen was born. I remember her saying, "Well, I think it's time." And we jumped in her Cadillac convertible and went to the hospital, and she was so happy.
She just adored this child. This was really a great accomplishment for her. And she was a single mother before it was fashionable.
I never once heard her complain about the pressures of single parenthood. She and I would talk about, oh God, gotta be home, gotta do this. But it was never with any degree of complaint.
To the greatest possible extent she could, she made a life for her child. Even in the midst of all the insanity of rock in the 60s, there was a family, a home there.
However, the family that had been the mamas and the papas could not go on. Drugs, drink, and personal relationships had pulled them apart. After 3 short years, the group called it quits. But before she left, Cass made an offer to Denny.
She asked me to marry her one time. Yeah, marry me and I can make you happy. I don't know what. I didn't say yay, and I just probably was half shot, loaded on something at the time, and never took advantage of that situation. I was just stupid and not man enough to accept the fact that she's 300 pounds and you got to get past that, stupid. Nobody could ever get past that with her.
She was sick of me. She was sick of Denny. She was sick of John. She wanted to go out on her own.
You people, I've got things to do. And she went off and did them.
Dream a Little Dream, Cass's first solo album, was named for a 1930s standard. The song was initially recorded by the Mamas and Papas shortly before the group split.
Stars shining bright above you.
With Cass calling it her own, the song was an instant success.
Whisper
appearing on the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour in 1968, Elliott gave a most memorable performance.
How are we going to sing that song? It was like we were early MTV. How do you present music with pictures?
Over time, Cass proved herself a natural comedian.
I don't know where that idea came up, but it made sense. It's like such a perfect sense. Me in bed just nodding off, and then every time she would sing loud, I'd leap up out of the... It's a very funny idea. Having her on the show was just a great coup for us. We thought this was wonderful. I thought we handled it very well. Presented her on our solo album at that time.
What's in a Triscuit? Simple ingredients like soft white winter wheat gathered together for 22 grams of whole grain goodness. It's what makes Triscuit worth every bite. Triscuit, weave some wonder.
Mom's best laundry secret, baking soda for extra cleaning and freshening.
Today, that secret teams with OxyClean, the stain-fighting superpower. Arm & Hammer Plus OxyClean detergent. It has twice the whitening power and blasts out stains others can't. Can yours do this? Try Arm & Hammer Plus OxyClean. And now, get liquid softening and static control in one. With new Arm & Hammer Total 2-in-1 Moist Dryer Cloths.
If you have a history of smoking and breathing problems, it could be COPD, which includes chronic bronchitis, emphysema, or both. Discover Spiriva, the only once-daily inhaled maintenance prescription that treats both forms of COPD. Spiriva significantly improves lung function to help you breathe better for a full 24 hours, and it's not a steroid. Spiriva does not replace fast-acting inhalers for sudden symptoms. Stop taking Spiriva and call your doctor if your breathing suddenly worsens, your throat or tongue swells, you get hives, or have vision changes or eye pain. Tell your doctor if you have glaucoma, problems passing urine, or an enlarged prostate, as these may worsen with Spiriva. Also, discuss the medicines you take, even eye drops. Side effects may include dry mouth, constipation, and trouble passing urine. So make a habit of breathing better with Spiriva.
When the itch disappears, when the burning is soothed, when you feel fresh, you can come back to your life. Vagisil, bring yourself back.
Guys, remember, we're a solar system. Mars is down, and it's only 10 a.m. Who has another Jimmy Dean breakfast this morning? Now let's orbit.
I feel awesome.
You're all awesome.
Jimmy Dean breakfast sandwiches. Fight the morning fade. Jimmy Dean, shine on.
I'm Erin Brockovich. I've seen what big corporations can do. I've seen the harm they've caused ordinary working people. People exposed to asbestos who 30 years later are suffering from mesothelioma and lung cancer. I'm here to say to those victims and their families, do not despair. There is hope. And there's a law firm that's ready to help you. Whites in Luxembourg. I've worked with them and I trust them.
1-888-411-LAWS.
Own a timeshare? Turn it into cash.
No more mortgage payments.
Thank you, Timeshares Only.
At Timeshares Only, you'll find properties from the biggest names in the industry. If you want to buy, sell, or rent, call now. Call Timeshares Only and get your free information kit with our insider secrets to buying, selling, and renting timeshares, plus receive a free $100 gift card.
Over $5 billion sold in the past 6 months proves now can be the best time to sell.
Call 800-974-4195. That's 800-974-4195. Call 800-974-4195 now.
He said, listen to this, and he sang me the first verse of California Dreamin'. And he says, well, get up, help me write it. And I said, well, I'll help you write it tomorrow. He said, no, come on, help me write it now.
I said, just write this down, you'll never regret it. And to this day, she's never regretted it, because she has half the writing credit for the song.
With the instant popularity of Dream a Little Dream, Cass was quickly booked into Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas, where no detail was left unattended.
I kind of call that the Cleopatra shot.
This was meant to be a billboard on Sunset Strip and also ads and things for the show in Las Vegas.
The billboard was a success. The show was not.
Vegas was a disaster. Newsweek called her, I think, a sore-throated thrush. She wanted to blow the top off things, as she put it, but she was terribly sick by October 1968. Cass, for the previous 18 months, had dieted incredibly. She dieted from about the time Owen was born, from May 1967 until the fall. So she dropped 110 pounds. But she also gave herself mono and hepatitis and tonsillitis and sheer exhaustion.
So Cass turned to a friendlier medium and quickly regained momentum.
Darling companion, come on and give me understanding, and let me be your champion. The hand to hold your free hand in.
Cass was incredibly telegenic. She was also acceptable both to a rock and roll audience and the Nixon era older folks. Somehow she slipped over the fence and wasn't a dirty long-haired person, and this was something that television responded to.
Cass also loved singing with her friends, and the result was pure gold.
The comeback she made from fall 1968 to having her own primetime television show in early 1969 is phenomenal.
A short while later, Cass got together with a friend just arrived from England for a most unlikely partnership.
Cass was regarded as very middle-of-the-road pop. On face value, it would seem like a very strange collaboration. To me, it was like, you know, why not? Let's make some music together.
In our hands we hold the flag for making life so sweet.
She needed something after the Mamas and Papas. I'd been with Traffic. Being a solo artist was a little new for me, which is probably the reason why it's so easy for me to do this with Cass. That sort of became my social environment. She was the Gertrude Stein of rock and roll. Because as Gertrude had her salon in the 20s in Paris, Cass had her salon in LA.
She was sort of the grande dame in that sense. She always had a nicer place, better food, other accoutrements of the day. I remember taking Eric Clapton and Joni over there one afternoon, and all of us sitting around and just trading songs.
She's the only person that ever sang on the first Crosby, Stills and Nash record, besides me and David and Steven.
We'd play it back for her, you know, say, listen to this, and she'd turn it up and she'd get, you know, get that look, you know. She said, you gotta let me sing on something. And we said, well, yeah, okay. So there's a place in there where she's singing along, and you have to know that that's her and that it's in there, but she's in there.
In the late 1960s and early 1970s, Cass Elliot was a fixture on American television.
Hosting The Tonight Show, Carol Burnett,
Hollywood Square,
Dinah Shore,
The Don Knotts Show,
Mike Douglas, Andy Williams,
Love American Style,
The Dating Game, Ray Stevens,
Young Dr. Kildare,
Merv Griffin, Scooby-Doo.
Of course, a presence as big as Cass Elliot could not limit herself to the small screen. Although it was another kids' television show that paved the way for her big screen debut.
When I was smaller and people were taller, I realized that I was different. I had a power.
In the recording studio, Cass had always been successful singing straight-ahead pop tunes. But in 1971, she made a dramatic shift with the release of her first record for RCA, Cass Elliot.
We chose material that allowed her to express herself and not do anything that resembled the Mamas and Papas.
My job is to make the music visual. And in Cass's case, it was setting her free from that bubblegum thing that everybody wanted her to be.
With an album cover shot by legendary Hollywood photographer George Harrell, Cass achieved the look of a chanteuse. Plus, her music had now become a family affair.
Cass was my biggest fan. She was a staunch supporter, and it was so great of her to put some of my songs on her records. And Cass just had an intuition with any song that she sang. She got it.
At the same time, Cass also recognized that she no longer needed to be anything other than herself. In fact, it was the inspiration of her next TV special.
She hated being called Mama Cass. Hated it. When she said, "Don't call me Mama anymore," she meant that from a much deeper place than most people realized.
Don't Call Me Mama Anymore was really the product of a couple of years of having toured in Vegas-type acts, club acts, and in supper club, very Tony venues, which Cass had really mastered by that point in time. It had the sense, opposed to 1969 special, where she was really proving herself in the midst of a tremendous comeback. 1973, it was more of a declaration.
Call me Cass.
Cass was indeed working hard. Maybe a little too hard.
Cass burned the candle at three ends. I very rarely saw her sleep. She seemed to be going constantly.
She was under incredible pressure with the TV show, with her personal life, scheduling other things. RCA wanted to get another album done, and we scheduled to do that in London. Leah's title of the second album and tune, "The Road Is No Place for a Lady," I think that's exactly what Cass was feeling. She just didn't have the same energy that she had when we first worked together.
I'm sure that she felt that if she could just work her tail off for 5 years.
If I work very hard for the next 4 or 5 years, I'll get myself in a position where financially I'll be able to make that album or two a year, and maybe a film a year, and not have to be on the road, although it is exciting.
Why did you want to go into show
Because
business?
people look like they were having a good time.
She was not feeling good, but it had largely to do with the fact that she was terrifically overweight and she was doing hard drugs.
I think we were all completely whacked. It was not a casual thing.
Did we get high? Did she get high? Yeah. But it wasn't a priority of hers. At night she had difficulty sleeping. She did take a sleeping pill. But it wasn't handfuls thrown down her throat like M&Ms.
In spring of 1974, in about April, Cass was due to be a guest on The Tonight Show.
What's this I read about you? You were going to host or be on a Tonight Show and you passed out?
Well, yes.
What was wrong?
You know, I had a headache. I know that sounds really good. Actually, I had the vapors. Remember in the old days, people used to get the vapors and take to the beds with a compress. But I had a headache, and I hadn't eaten anything all day long, and my blood sugar level dropped, and I just sort of tipped over.
Something was going on with her health at this point in time, and she was taken to the hospital. She was very self-conscious about it. She did not want the hoopla or the attention.
You know, you can't pass out in the privacy of your own home. You know, I had to do it at NBC, where there were millions of cameras and people all around me and everything, and it was really depressing. But I'm okay.
She was going to go to London and sing at the Palladium as a soloist. She was really excited about it.
To play at the London Palladium was a great honor because only the biggest stars played there.
She came to my house 2 days before she left for London. Bone weary physically. She was tired.
Like a true show business woman, she finished her gig. She had a 2-week engagement at the London Palladium, and she finished that. She had her last night there.
She called me, and she was crying. And she said, "I got a standing ovation." I think she had to tell me that. She had to tell me that in her own way, she felt that she had finally broken away from the group, and that she had gotten that standing ovation on her own.
Today could be the best I've ever known.
I had the radio on, and a song finished, and the announcer came on and said, "Pop star dies in London." And then they began to play Dream a Little Dream of Me. And I just remember thinking, no, no. And the announcer broke in after the first few bars and said,
Mama Cass Elliot has died in London at the age of 33 and described herself as the happiest person in the world, having won acclaim in the London Palladium appearances she had just finished.
Obviously, as soon as I knew, I tried to find out as much as possible.
She was eating a ham sandwich, had a soft drink. She was propped up in bed. That was last night, and today, her secretary went into the bedroom to find her, still propped up in bed and dead, apparently having choked to death on the food in her sleep.
The ham sandwich thing.
Yeah, the erroneous ham sandwich.
It was such a convenient urban legend and fit her personality and character, and it was a joke on gluttony.
The truth isn't as colorful.
The initial stories reported that Cass Elliot had died by strangulation after having choked on a sandwich she was eating. A post-mortem showed the 32-year-old star of the Mamas and Papas group suffered from fatty degeneration of the heart muscle.
Her heart quit. She had a heart attack. Finally, when the coroner released that, nobody wanted to hear it.
Coroner Gavin Thurston said this is a death from natural causes. Nothing was said, however, to explain the erroneous first reports.
After her death, Cass's friends and family were faced with a challenging situation. They were forced to defend someone they loved from all manner of innuendo, while at the same time thinking of their last goodbyes at her funeral.
It was mobbed, and there were paparazzi, but there were also tourists in their Bermuda shorts and their cameras.
At the end of the row where I was sitting was Carol Burnett, a woman who just was sort of the prototype of the tourist, spotted Carol and said quite loudly, "Oh, Carol, I just love your show. I never miss any of them. Don't you die now."
There was a short service. The next thing I knew, someone had told me to go get into the limousine. So I went with Owen and my husband Russ at the time, and this crowd just mobbed the limousine to the point where they were actually climbing in through the windows.
I didn't know most of the people there, but that didn't mean anything. Cass had a lot of friends apart from the Mamas and the Papas. Only it was very difficult for me to accept that because we were just this little family. And we had created all this music, just the four of us. Actually, it made me realize that Cass did have a life outside of us.
Now, almost 30 years since her death, Cass's daughter Owen fights to protect and maintain her mother's memory. In 1998, she accepted on Cass's behalf as the Mamas and the Papas were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
One of the coolest things about being her daughter is getting to turn on the radio in my car and have California Dreaming playing, or Monday, Monday, or Dream a Little Dream of Me, and getting to turn to my daughter and say, "Hey, that's your grandma singing."
I'll be seeing you
I miss her a lot.
in all
The friendship,
the
the laughter,
familiar places.
the sparkle in her eye.
I still think about her. There's a little piece of her that came to me through our friendship that still has a little light on inside.
I was sitting down in Figaro, the corner of Bleecker and McDougal, looking up the street sign. I think Zoll, John Phillips, Cass. So many people, little ghosts walking up and down the street.
You really could warm your hands by Cass.
Her life wasn't a tragedy, but I do think that death was a tragedy. I think it was a great tragedy for the world.
A really big life cut short.
A lot of people really loved Cass. She was the center of our world at that point. And that was a pretty interesting world.
She would be one of the brightest angels of that period, not just as an artist and a performer, but as a human being. It's a great thing to leave as a legacy. Plus, just listen to her sing.